A Bankruptcy Guide, File for Bankruptcy. Chapter 1. Bankruptcy Guide. Bankruptcy 1. A system without bankruptcy is like religion without hell. This is a basic nuts and bolts guide to how the United States Bankruptcy Court operates and how to file for bankruptcy, which means you have more debt than you can pay off right now and you need assistance in either restructuring the debt, paying all of it off in the future, paying some of it off like pennies on the dollar to discharge it fully. Discharge all of your debt, have no debts and start over without debts to pay. Books about bankruptcy are located at number 346.078 and number 346.73 at your local library. uscourts.gov/services-forms/bankruptcy/bankruptcy-basics. uscourts.gov/services-forms/chapter 11 Bankruptcy Basics. uscourts.gov/services-forms/chapter 13 Bankruptcy Basics. This info was current when I wrote it, but there are laws being drafted to make bankruptcy laws tougher. The Bankruptcy Code is Title 11 of the U.S. Code, which you should be able to find at a local library. I heard that if you have possessions which add up to 25% of what you owe, you will not be allowed to declare bankruptcy anymore. You have to either stay current on your own or talk to a lawyer or bankruptcy trustee for a few minutes to know if you're allowed to declare bankruptcy. Books about bankruptcy are located at number 346.078 and number 346.73 at your local library. In addition to this federal law, there are local laws. Every judicial district has a bankruptcy court. Contact them for forms and information. In order to file, you have to fill out the tedious forms, pay a filing fee, then set up a date for the hearing with the bankruptcy court. Spouses can file separately or jointly. Traditionally, personal bankruptcy has been a desperate last resort for those so deeply in debt and harried by creditors that there really seemed to be no other solution, but nowadays people with good jobs file bankruptcy. The passage of the Federal Bankruptcy Act of 1978 made the process much easier than before. This change significantly liberalized personal filing procedures in the name of consumer rights. If you have very few assets, mountains of debt and not enough income to meet your obligations, then a good bet is often the filing of straight bankruptcy. What you will need is the proper forms, S-3010 bankruptcy forms, for an individual not engaged in business. These can be purchased from any office supply store. You could also get them from your local bankruptcy court. You will need to know which district you live in for federal court purposes, so look in the white pages of your telephone book under U.S. Government, Courts and take down the address of the nearest U.S. District Court. Check it out to be sure that your residence is in this court's jurisdiction. You then fill out the forms, listing all of your creditors, those with priority being listed first, meaning those who have extended credit to you against some sort of security or collateral, followed by those who have extended credit to you on just your signature or reputation. You must be sure to list all of your creditors, because any that you fail to list will be able to sue you and collect even after the bankruptcy has been adjudicated. At the same time, be sure to include the names of anyone and everyone you may have co-signed a note or a loan for, as well as anyone who may have co-signed for you. The laws governing personal bankruptcy vary in all states, but generally, a bankruptcy judgment will not take away the house you live in, basic home furnishings, a car that's necessary towards your gainful employment, nor the tools of your trade. Check these things out to be sure against the list of items regarded as the necessities of life by your state. When you have got all the forms filled out and notarized, you take them to the clerk of the U.S. District Court in your jurisdiction. You pay the clerk a filing fee, and from there, you're home free. The clerk notifies your creditors and reminds them that being as you have filed bankruptcy papers, they cannot bother you about your debts anymore. However, they are invited to your hearing. Usually they don't show up because by that time, you have very few, if any, non-exempt assets left that they are really interested in. Whatever assets you do have that are non-exempt will be sold by the court to appease your creditors. Any money realized from these sales is then added to the total amount of money you may have turned over to the court at the time of your filing and divided equally amongst your creditors according to priorities. After all of this has taken place, and usually about 3 months after you have been adjudged bankrupt, you can start all over again to incur debt, pay bills, and establish a new credit rating. However, you should be especially careful about talking with your old creditors because they may attempt to maneuver you into signing a reaffirmation of your old debt. The thing to do is to be sure that you carefully read anything you affix your signature to and don't agree to pay on any debt that has already been discharged through your bankruptcy. In some bankruptcy filings, it is advantageous to hire an attorney to represent you. This is especially true for people who have assets such as real estate they want to protect or people who has been operating home-based businesses or been accused of fraud. If you decide to process your bankruptcy without a lawyer, then it is your responsibility to fill out all the necessary forms accurately and completely and every bit as precisely as if you had paid an attorney to do it for you. Be sure you understand all the papers, ask the court clerk for advice, and if you run into problems then take it into an attorney. Even if creditors have begun a suit against you, once the court has given you relief, they cannot touch you. Once you have filed under these provisions, your creditors are immediately restricted from even contacting you and get only what the referee or trustee doles out to them. Oftentimes, if a creditor threatens to sue you, the most effective thing you can do is to tell him frankly that if he sues you, you will have no other alternative except to file bankruptcy papers. In many instances, this will cause him to take a second look and to do whatever he can to assist you in paying him the money you owe, but over a longer period of time and at smaller monthly payments. The absolute bottom line is that your creditors know only too well that if you file for bankruptcy, their chances of receiving even half of what you owe is practically nil. Thus, it's in their best interest to do everything they can to help you to continue making payments on the amount you owe, regardless of how small those payments may be. Explain your situation with your creditors and a desire to explore other possible ways of mutual satisfaction without involving collection agencies or bankruptcy. Bankruptcy 2. Bankruptcy will cause these things to happen: liquidation and loss of assets except for home, car, and IRA funds. Stress, depression. Severely damaged credit record. Inability to get a loan for several years. Loss of job opportunities if the job requires a credit check. Before you consider bankruptcy, you should contact a bankruptcy attorney for either a free consultation or get him to tell you what's going on for $50 or so. Bankruptcy laws are always changing. The big advantage is still that once you file, all your creditors have to back off and let the court take care of it. It will all be resolved at a later date. Some creditors will show up to try to get something. Some will write it off as a loss. You will probably need an attorney unless you can fill those tedious papers out yourself. There is a filing fee with the court. Your lawyer will complete a petition for bankruptcy, which is basically a rundown of your financial state of affairs. Some people fill out the papers without a lawyer. Get the forms online at bankruptcy.findlaw.com/bankruptcy_help/bankruptcy_help_forms left (1) right .html. Some assets are exempt, like clothing, food, books, personal belongings, furniture, a small amount of cash and your wedding ring. Depending on the state, you are also allowed a car of a modest value, and in some states, your house is exempt. Everything else is stuff they can take to try to recover their loans to you. Bankruptcy is usually seen as a last resort after other attempts to solve a financial crisis fail. Creditors try to profile bankruptcy as a moral issue and try to make people feel guilty about it, but it's largely a legal and business issue and doesn't have much social stigma anymore because so many people have done it and so many are in precarious positions and could have to do it at some point in time. You may first want to talk to a credit counselor or talk to your creditors to see if you can reach an agreement before you file for bankruptcy, but the bottom line is that they will all try to set up a plan for you to pay your debts in full. If you approach your creditors, you will find many with an arrogant, condescending attitude. If you're thinking about filing, educate yourself about the process, plan it out in advance, do what you have to do to save whatever you can. Convert non-exempt assets into exempt ones, then find a bankruptcy lawyer if you have a complicated estate. A good bankruptcy lawyer could help you out a lot with all the laws and loopholes of the bankruptcy code. A big reason for declaring bankruptcy is divorce. Each person has to start a new household and the husband often has to pay alimony and child support plus his bills for his new residence and he just can't handle it and declares bankruptcy. In a nutshell, you win and your creditors lose. Bankruptcy gives you a way out of overwhelming debts and it can also help creditors receive at least partial payment for their bills. There are generally 3 rules of eligibility. You have to have lived in the district you're filing in at least 180 days beforehand. You cannot have been involved in another bankruptcy case 180 days previous that was dismissed for any of a number of reasons. If you transferred some of your property to a friend or relative within 90 days of filing, the trustee can void the transfer. If you have taken out loans shortly before filing for bankruptcy and used fraudulent information on the loan questionnaire, the bankruptcy judge could move to charge you criminally with fraud. The judge has lots of leeway and in some cases, if he deems the debtor to be sleazy, he can figuratively skin him alive and even dip into assets supposed to be exempt. Utility companies aren't allowed to cut you off just because you declared bankruptcy. There is a provision to put money aside for utility payments. Any money received after the date of filing except tax refunds or inheritance money cannot be taken by the creditors, so anything you earn during that time is yours. 36 states have laws that supersede the federal bankruptcy code while the remaining 14, CT, HI, MA, MI, MN, New Jersey, NM, PA, RI, TX, VT, WA, WI, DC, allow the bankrupt person to choose which jurisdiction he wants his bankruptcy processed, either federal or state. If you know you are planning to file bankruptcy and go out and buy a lot of expensive things, you can be charged criminally for this. The homestead exemption is simply that some equity in your home is exempt from being taken by creditors. Check with state laws and a lawyer for more information. Texas allows a bankrupt person to hold onto 200 acres of land. Florida allows 160. One legal tactic is to try to put as many of your assets as you can on the exempt list, like the homestead exemption. If you transfer your assets like your house to someone else and hide assets shortly before the bankruptcy, they won't like it too much if they catch you. Bankruptcy 3. The first step in bankruptcy is to file a petition and schedule at the clerk's office of the Federal Bankruptcy Court. You can obtain the forms to file for bankruptcy from the court clerk or you can buy them at a stationery store. You will find the number of the local bankruptcy court in the federal government listings of your local phone book. You must pay the appropriate fee, about $175, at the time you file your petition unless you apply to pay in installments. Under certain circumstances, the court may allow you to pay the fee in installments. The clerk and the Chapter 13 trustee, who the clerk will know, may be able to help you with the paperwork. When you file for indebtedness relief under the provisions of this law, nothing is recorded permanently on your credit record. You get to keep all your assets, but you must pay off all your debts. So long as the court grants you relief under these provisions and you pay your creditors according to the repayment schedule agreed upon by the court, your creditors cannot bother you. Even if they have begun a suit against you, once the court has given you relief, they cannot touch you. Once you have filed under these provisions, your creditors are immediately restricted from even contacting you and get only what the referee or trustee doles out to them. In all but the most basic of cases, it's usually advisable to hire an attorney because bankruptcy really is a complicated process. This is especially true for people who have assets such as real estate they want to protect or people who has been operating home-based businesses or been accused of fraud. Remember this: if you decide to process your bankruptcy without a lawyer, then it is your responsibility to fill out all the necessary forms accurately and completely and every bit as precisely as if you had paid an attorney to do it for you. Be sure you understand all the papers, ask the court clerk for advice, and if you run into problems then take it into an attorney. Fees may range from $400 to $1,000 or more depending on the complexity of your case. Be sure to discuss an attorney's fees up front and ask whether you can pay in installments. In a straightforward case, the entire procedure usually takes from 4 to 6 months. You can file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy only once every 7 years, and notice of the filing will usually remain on your credit record for 7 to 10 years. Also note that although your debt may be discharged, anyone who has co-signed a loan with you will remain responsible for paying off the debt even after your bankruptcy. If you're married and you file for bankruptcy alone, your spouse doesn't automatically have to, but she may still be responsible for the debts that you incurred jointly. Bankruptcy will not discharge them unless she files also. A couple can file for bankruptcy jointly if they want to. A way to file singly and protect some things owned jointly is to name her as a creditor. Talk to a lawyer about it. Chapter 11 is generally used to reorganize a business, although individuals are also eligible. This type of bankruptcy allows a business to continue operating while repaying creditors through a court-approved plan. A bankruptcy filing stays on your credit record for 7 to 10 years, but it need not be a permanent handicap. In fact, there are laws that forbid discrimination against persons who have declared bankruptcy. For example, you may not be denied a job, be denied or evicted from public housing, or be denied a driver's license just because you filed for bankruptcy. The emotional impact on you and your family may take some time to heal. You may want to seek emotional support by contacting a professional counselor or clergy person, or discuss your problems with a friend or family member. If you know you're going to declare bankruptcy, a good tip is to try to pay off one credit card. Don't include it in the bankruptcy and use it to re-establish good credit later. You can rehabilitate your credit record by working a steady job, saving money in a savings account, and paying for some things on the layaway plan. Obtain a secured credit card and make the payments on time. Finally, before declaring bankruptcy, you may want to seek credit counseling or talk with an attorney and try to reach out of court settlements with your creditors. Bankruptcy fraud info. If you lie about your assets, you could get charged criminally. Since bankruptcy is a federal affair, the FBI and the Treasury Department investigate some cases of bankruptcy. It's fairly easy to run a name through a database to see if you own a plane, boat, other real estate, have other accounts, etc. If you're being fraudulent, you could go to jail for 5 years. Some fraudulent factors are: asset concealment, property given away within a year of filing, many recent charges on credit cards, recent loans, recent purchases of luxury items, recent trips, credit card cash advances, lying on forms and credit applications. Types of bankruptcy. In essence, bankruptcy means a relief from burdensome debt by a release of the debtor from personal liability for certain specified types of debts. The debtor is no longer required by law to pay any debts that are discharged. There are generally 5 types. Chapter 7, Liquidation, a quick, simple way out. There is a court hearing where creditors and debtor reach an agreement. A court trustee gets what he can from the debtor's estate, individual or business, barring exemptions, converts it to cash and makes partial payment to the creditors based on a hierarchy. In most states, you may have some equity in your house which you're allowed to keep. Some states have a homestead exemption, which is to keep your house. Chapter 13, Adjustment of debts of an individual with regular income. The debtor has a job, is allowed to keep his house, and works out a deal to pay his creditors either a partial or full sum over a period of between 3 to 5 years. Chapter 12, Adjustment of debts of a family farmer with regular annual income, similar to Chapter 13 except for family farmers, enabling them to keep the farm while paying off creditors. Chapter 11, Reorganization, used by commercial businesses who want to stay in business to work out a deal for partial payment to their creditors. There is also a liquidation clause which allows the debtor to liquidate his business less drastically than under a Chapter 7. Chapter 9, Adjustment of debts of a municipality, similar to Chapter 11 except for municipal governments. An involuntary bankruptcy is a situation when the creditors petition for payment in a process. The creditors force you to commit bankruptcy so they can take what's left of your assets. Reaffirmation is when you talk/write a letter to your creditor, and try to set up some kind of payment plan with them. Redemption is when you offer your creditor a lump sum for the near value of your debt. Chapter 2. Bankruptcy 2. Chapter 7 Bankruptcy Info. Chapter 7 makes no reference at all to the debtor's income. It permits debtors to clear the slate by turning over all their assets except those specifically exempted to creditors. Among the exemptions: homestead exemption, up to $7,500 equity in the debtor's house, $15,000 if both file. Some states allow you to keep the entire house, so some people just put everything they own into their houses then declare bankruptcy. Any property, $400 per debtor plus the unused part of the homestead exemption up to $3,750 per debtor. $4,000 in accrued dividends. $1,200 in automobile equity. $500 in jewelry. $200 per category of household items, including clothing, books, etc., up to $4,000. Life insurance with a cash value of up to $4,000 per debtor. A doctor may exempt health aids, disability, Social Security, and other retirement benefits. Certain compensations for injury or losses. Some non-dischargeable debts are alimony, child support, state or federal income taxes for the past 3 years, judgments against you resulting from DUI conviction, traffic tickets, court fines, debts accrued through fraud, credit purchases for luxury items and cash advances of $1,000 or more made within 60 days of filing for bankruptcy. Debts you don't list on the bankruptcy petition. Bankruptcy allows you to make a fresh start. Generally, it takes only a small amount of money, a careful evaluation of your assets and your liabilities. In many cases, a lawyer is not necessary. If you have previously filed Chapter 7, you can't file again for 7 years. Chapter 7 is when the court takes your non-exempt assets and tries to sell them to pay off your debts. You're allowed to keep some items like clothing, some equity in your home, up to $7,500, or car, $1,200, Social Security benefits, unemployment insurance, some jewelry, household items, the tools of your trade and your pension benefits if applicable. Chapter 7 is the most desirable type, which leaves you free and clear of all debt. The other types, like Chapter 13, have you on a payment plan for the next several years. In both cases, they stay on your credit record for 10 years. In essence, you can keep $7,500 equity in home, $15,000 if husband and wife file, $4,000 in accrued dividends, $1,200 in automobile equity, $500 in jewelry, $200 per several categories of household goods, i.e. clothing, books, etc. Creditors have the right to seize any property you may have put up to secure a loan, i.e. collateral. Some states have different rules regarding exemptions. Creditors can take any property you declare, like a stamp or coin collection, firearms, family heirlooms, musical instruments unless you're a professional musician, cash, stocks, bonds, and all other investments, any vehicles beyond your first, watercraft, snowmobiles, and virtually anything that has any value. Some states have a law where if your primary car is worth $1,200 or less, you can keep it. If it's truly a tool of your trade, you can keep it. If it's leased, the company will probably want it back immediately. In almost all other cases, the bankruptcy court or the car dealer will take your car. There is a meeting between you, your lawyer, the creditors, and the appointed trustee where your creditors can question you about your state of affairs. You will have to go to court for it. It's no big deal. It will last a few minutes. Everything is worked out by your lawyer beforehand. The judge will ask you if everything on your forms are true, then ask if any creditors want to object on any basis and demand full payment of your debt to them. If none do, the judge dismisses your debts, which aren't really dismissed, for 90 days to allow creditors more time to do fraud investigations on you, and that's it. If you weren't too greedy in planning, you're home free. Most of your debts are discharged and then the trustee sells off your assets and uses the money to pay off your creditors to the best of his ability with the money he's got. Any money realized from these sales is then added to the total amount of money you may have turned over to the court at the time of your filing and divided equally amongst your creditors according to priorities. After all of this has taken place, and usually about 3 months after you have been adjudged bankrupt, you can start all over again to incur debt, pay bills, and establish a new credit rating. However, you should be especially careful about talking with your old creditors because they may attempt to maneuver you into signing a reaffirmation of your old debt. The thing to do is to be sure that you carefully read anything you affix your signature to and don't agree to pay on any debt that has already been discharged through your bankruptcy. Chapter 13 Bankruptcy Info. Chapter 13 requires that debtors show only a regular income to handle a reasonable 3-year payback plan. The court's definition of reasonable happens to be as little as 1% to 10%, even when a payment of 50% could easily be managed. Many people are using this as an easy way out. Chapter 13. In Chapter 13 or Chapter 11, the court doesn't take your assets, rather, you agree to continue working or receiving a regular income from some source for the next several years, usually 3, in order to pay off just part of your debt, then all is forgiven. The percentage of the original debt that you pay back ranges from 1% to 50%. Your creditors are prevented from starting or continuing legal proceedings against you. This is looked upon more favorably than Chapter 7 for future lenders and creditors because you still owe a lot of money and you're still stuck. Chapter 13 provides a method for repaying your debt if you have a regular income, over a period of time according to a court-approved plan. This period of time allowed ranges from 3 to 5 years. Only an individual with unsecured debts of less than $250,000 and secured debts of less than $750,000 is eligible. To file Chapter 13, you must file the appropriate schedules and petitions with the bankruptcy court and pay the filing fee. You must also file a proposed plan of repayment with your original petition or within the next 15 days. A trustee will be appointed to supervise your performance, to make regular payments to your creditors and to provide the court and other parties with information about your finances. Once you file the Chapter 13 bankruptcy in court, your creditors have to back off. You have to file a debtor's plan, which is basically a budget and a schedule of payment of your debts. Once this is done, there is a meeting, called a confirmation hearing, where you, your lawyer, all your creditors and the trustee who will oversee the payment all meet and discuss the matter. The creditors may object to the proposal. There are 2 types of creditors. Secured, those who have something of collateral for the loan. Unsecured, those who have nothing. Whatever agreement is reached, i.e. how many cents on the dollar you're willing to pay back per loan, your percentage or rate must be equal for each class. For instance, if you agree to pay 60 cents on the dollar to one unsecured creditor, then it has to be 60 cents on the dollar for all unsecured creditors. They finally reach an agreement, the judge okays it, and over a period of from 36 to 60 months, you have to pay the trustee a certain amount of money every month to cover your debts. Basically, these provisions allow you to make new arrangements with your creditors and pay off all your debts over a new 3-year period of time. Bankruptcy forms and documents. The forms you need are: Petition for voluntary bankruptcy. This form basically just has your name and address on it. Statement of affairs. This form gives the court an overview of your financial state, name, address, occupation, income, taxes, refunds, payments to the IRS, bank accounts, financial records, and other financial type questions. Answer simply and forthrightly. Statement of all liabilities. On this form, you list all your debts and liabilities, even those to friends and relatives. It is divided into 3 categories. Creditors having priority. This is the high priority class and included wages to people who work for you and taxes due to all levels of the government, including the IRS. Creditors holding security, for example, a car on the monthly payment plan. You stop the payments, they repossess it. Another example is if you put your house up as collateral on a loan, they can take your house. Creditors having unsecured claims without priority, generally debts without collateral such as credit card bills, doctor's bills, department stores, lawyers, friends, gas companies, etc. Statement of all property. On this form, you list all your property. This is divided into 4 categories. Real property, any holdings in real estate, land, or property. The statement of all property lists 22 kinds of personal property such as cash, bank accounts, household goods, clothing, jewelry, livestock, farm equipment, office equipment, inventory, etc. Property not otherwise scheduled refers to any kinds of property not included in the first 2 categories. Property claimed as exempt refers to those items you own that are exempt from being used to pay off your creditors, such as some equity in the value of your house or mobile home, some household goods, jewelry, professional books, tools of the trade, life insurance policy, social security, veterans or disability benefits, alimony or support, and some maintenance support. These items all have cap limits which I didn't list because the values are always changing. Summary of debts and property. This form summarizes the previous 2 forms. List of creditors. List of all the people and companies that you owe money to. Personal paperwork needed. Some of the documents you will need include the following: deeds, mortgages, contracts on your home and mortgage statements. Any papers relating to past bankruptcies. Copies of federal tax returns for the past 2 years. All legal papers, summonses, complaints, and notices of attachment, execution or garnishment. Credit card bills, medical bills, and any other documents regarding outstanding debt. Statements and passbooks for savings or checking accounts for the past year. Student loan papers. bankruptcy.findlaw.com/bankruptcy_help/bankruptcy_help_forms left (1) right .html. The wage earner plan. Besides the regular bankruptcy laws, there's also a little known and little used method of getting reorganized with your debt, particularly when you have got a steady job and just need more time to straighten your indebtedness out. This is the wage earner's provisions of federal bankruptcy laws. Basically, these provisions allow you to make new arrangements with your creditors and pay off all your debts over a new 3-year period of time. When you filed for indebtedness relief under the provisions of this law, nothing is recorded permanently on your credit record. You get to keep all your assets, but you must pay off all your debts. But so long as the court grants you relief under these provisions and you pay your creditors according to the repayment schedule agreed upon by the court, your creditors cannot bother you. Remember, creditors hate bankruptcy because they may be left with no payment. To them, 20% of what you owe is better than nothing at all. But if you can't get on the wage earner plan, there is another solution. Sit down with your creditors and negotiate a payment plan. Tell them how much you can pay. They will settle for less than the actual amount owed. Simply ask to file the federal law called the wage earner plan in bankruptcy court. Under this rule, if you have a job, you set up a meeting with your creditors. The ones that don't show up forego their loans, and for the ones that do, you set up a payment schedule with them over 3 to 5 years. This is better for your credit report than bankruptcy. Ask your lawyer or bankruptcy court about this alternative to full-fledged bankruptcy. Using the Federal Bankruptcy Act, Wage Earner Plan, you can file for immediate relief from unmerciful creditors and collection agencies. To be eligible, your monthly bills must exceed your income and your major income must be earned from a salary or commission. To take advantage of the plan, you must be a wage earner and most of your income come from wages, regardless of how much you make. You can discharge any amount of your debt under this law. Here's how it works. 1. Call the nearest U.S. District Court and find out the name of the trustee who administers the wage earner plan and make an appointment to see him. 2. Bring to your appointment all relevant financial records, such as payment books, contracts, etc. 3. The trustee will examine your finances and set up a plan by which portion of your debts is paid over a 3-year period. 4. You then make your monthly payments to the trustee who, in turn, pays each of your creditors. Generally within 3 days of filing, a restraining order will be issued to all of your creditors which will stop creditors, collection agencies, lenders, or anyone else who has been notified from contacting or harassing you any further. Immediately stop all action against you that had been initiated by creditor. For this relief plan to work, it must be accepted by a majority of your creditors. If the majority agrees to the plan, all others must comply. Immediately stop interest and late charges from accumulating any further. A possible side effect of the wage earner plan is the reduction of much of your debts, because a provision of your filing requires your creditors to appear in court. Statistics show that 40% of creditors fail to appear in court. In this case, you owe only 60% of your creditors their claims. In some cases, none of your creditors will appear. If this happens, all your debts are wiped out, without the pain of bankruptcy. If some of your creditors do appear in court, the court allows you to divide your payment into smaller amounts to be paid over a 3-year period. Once you file, you will stop bill collectors, lawsuits, judgments, assignments, seized bank accounts and other actions against you. Indeed, in many cases, your credit rating may improve because you have made an honest effort to work with the lending parties to pay off your debts. Your debt may be wiped out entirely if a creditor used deceptive trade practices to induce your purchase as defined by the Uniform Commercial Code. You should also be aware that under the Homestead Act, your residence may be exempted from levy to the extent determined by local law. Check with a lawyer or your local courthouse for more details. Credit after bankruptcy. The following are ideas to get credit cards after bankruptcy. If you have got a few credit cards that you want to keep, have a zero balance when you apply for bankruptcy. They won't be listed as debts, so you keep them. The exceptions are Sears and Discover, who will close your account. If you have good credit before filing for bankruptcy, apply for new credit cards about a month before you file for bankruptcy. Register for one course at university, get a student ID card, go to the campus bookstore and other stores around the area looking for credit card applications. Fill them in along with required proof of studentship, student ID card, and you might get some credit cards. Quit the course before the deadline and get 75% of your tuition back. Get secured credit cards. Fraudulent conveyances. A fraudulent conveyance is a legal doctrine that protects lenders and others from people who know they owe money but transfer ownership of most of their assets that are registered like a house and car to someone else in order to avoid the creditor getting access to them. If the person who owes money transfers his or her property to hinder or delay his or her creditor, or if they sell it for less than fair market value, this is suspicious behavior to the courts, who will probably rule to invalidate the transfer. If your financial situation is in strife such it looks like you could declare bankruptcy, or if you are sued civilly, then all of a sudden start to liquidate your assets or take out as many loans as you can get, it looks like fraudulent intent. It's not just a civil charge. It can be a criminal matter too. This type of fraud is called a fraudulent conveyance. Courts will disallow these transfers and let the creditors go after them as if the transfer had not been made. Chapter 3. Bankruptcy Resources. Bankruptcy Resources. uscourts.gov. usdoj.gov/UST, US Trustees Program, lists bankruptcy trustees by state. bankruptcy.findlaw.com/bankruptcy_help/bankruptcy_help_forms left (1) right .html. American Bankruptcy Institute. 44 Canal Plaza. Number 404. Alexandria, Virginia 22314-1592. 703-739-0800. abiworld.org. Bankruptcy Overview Book. Consumer Information Center. Pueblo, Colorado 81009. 202-208-7679. 888-8 Pueblo. Publications.usa.gov. Low-cost booklet Bankruptcy Guide. American Bankruptcy Institute. 44, Canal Plaza. Number 404. Alexandria, Virginia 22314-1592. 703-739-0800. abiworld.org. Bankruptcy Overview Book. American Financial Services Association. afsaonline.org. Free booklet, What You Should Know Before Declaring Bankruptcy. Bankruptcy websites. Bankruptcy books are hard to find and they're always outdated anyway. There are many tedious, trivial rules. Books about bankruptcy are located at number 332.750, number 346.078, number 346.71-73, HG 3769, or KE 1499 or KF 1524 at your local library. Nalo.com sells a good one. Your best bet is to see what basic information you can get from your local bankruptcy court. uscourts.gov/federalcourts/bankruptcy.aspx, Guide to Bankruptcy Basics, Your Options, and the Legal Process. irs.gov/publications/p908/index.html, Guide to Bankruptcy, Exemptions, and Taxes. bankruptcy.find-law.com/bankruptcy_help/bankruptcy_forms left parenthesis 1 right parenthesis.html. nacba.com, National Association of Consumer Bankruptcy Attorneys. bankruptcydata.com, Directory of Bankruptcies, access to reports for a fee. abiworld.org, American Bankruptcy Institute. freeadvice.com/law/506us.htm, bankruptcy law. consumer.abiworld.org, the American Bankruptcy Institute, aiming to educate consumers about bankruptcy. topics.law.cornell.edu/wex/bankruptcy, bankruptcy. uscourts.gov/bankruptcy courts/bankruptcy-basics.html, bankruptcy basics. uscourts.gov/bk forms, legal forms, official bankruptcy forms. onlyfinance.com/debt/bankruptcy.aspx. almondanlee.com/bankruptcy_blog. bankrate.com/brm/news/bankruptcy. bankruptcylawNetwork.com. bankruptcyoffice.net. bklawclinic.com. blog.totalbankruptcy.com. legalhelpers.com/bankruptcy-articles. money.cnn.com/magazine/moneymag/money101. totalbankruptcy.com. creditadvisors.com. badcreditloan.capital.com. bankrupt.com, Bankruptcy Creditors Service. accumulating-money.com/staying-financially-afloat-bankruptcy-alternatives. credit.com/slp/chapter 8/bankruptcy.jsp. uscourts.gov/bankbasic.pdf. abiworld.org, American Bankruptcy Institute. usdoj.gov/ust, US Trustees Program, lists bankruptcy trustees by state. abiworld.org, American Bankruptcy Institute. bankrupt.com. fsnetwork.com/bankruptcy/chapter.html. johager.com/bankruptcy/news.html. abiworld.org, American Bankruptcy. findlaw.com/10fedgov/judicial/bankruptcy_courts.html, bankruptcy court listings. moneyproblems.com/faq.asp. bankruptcy-law.freeadvice.com. totalbankruptcy.com. bankrate.com/yho/news/bankruptcy/20080318_medical_bills_a1.asp, medical bills and bankruptcy. creditadvisors.com. bankrupt.com/lbr, local bankruptcy rules. uscourts.gov/bk forms/index.html, official bankruptcy forms. a2zetc.com/bankruptcy. Afterbankruptcyexpo.com. Agent.com/lawfnd. Bankrupt.com, Internet Bankruptcy Library. bankruptcy1.net. Bankruptcyaction.com. Bankruptcydata.com, free bankruptcy searches on public companies filing for bankruptcy since 1986. Bankruptcysquire.com. Bankruptcyinformation.com. bernsteinlaw.com/publications/bankrupt.html. debtsource.com. debtworkout.com. efilingforbankruptcy.com. finance-encyclopedia.com. financialadvice-usa.com. guidetoFilingBankruptcy.com. info.psu.edu/psu-info/university-life/legal rights and safety concerns/bankruptcy. law.cornell.edu/folio-cgi.exe/frb ? law.cornell.edu/topics/bankruptcy.html. law.ukla.edu, Bankruptcy Research Database. Bankruptcy lawyer websites. nacba.com, nacba.org, National Association of Consumer Bankruptcy Attorneys. bankruptcylawyeroffices.com. mcfarlandlaw.com, California bankruptcy attorney. afdlaw.com, Aronson, Feynman, and Davis CO. alderman.com, Connecticut and New York. bankruptcy.lawyers.com. bankruptcyaction.com. bankruptcybar.org, Maryland. bankruptcyhome.com. bankruptcylawfirms.com. bankruptcylawyers.biz. bankruptcylawyers.com. bankruptcy-lawyers-chicago.com. bankruptcylawyersindiana.com. bankruptcylawyersnetwork.com. bankruptcylawyers-nework.com. bankruptcylawyersonline.com. bankruptcylawyers-sanantonio.com, San Antonio, TX. bankruptcylawyers-sanjose.com. bankruptcylawyers-us.com. bankruptcylawyersvirginia.com. connecticut-bankruptcy.com. detroitbankruptcylawyers.com, 888 Detgon, 313-962-4656. Donny.net, bankruptcy firm, online information. freebankruptcyevaluation.com. Bankruptcy court and record websites by state. Many bankruptcy courts have a 24-hour touch-tone automated information system called Voice Case Information System, VCIS. If you punch in a person's name or social security number, the computer will tell if there has been a bankruptcy filing. You can also call during normal business hours to speak to a live person. Banco.com. ChoicePointOnline.com. lexis-nexis.com. merlindata.com. pacer.psc.uscourts.gov. Alabama Bankruptcy Court. Northern District. Decatur Division. 256-355-2349. 877-466-8879. alnb.uscourts.gov. pacer.alnb.uscourts.gov. Birmingham Division. 205-731-3746. 877-466-0796. alnb.uscourts.gov. pacer.alnb.uscourts.gov. Anniston Division. 256-238-0456. 466-0795. alnb.uscourts.gov. pacer.alnb.uscourts.gov. Tuscaloosa Division 205-758-1309. alnb.uscourts.gov. pacer.alnb.uscourts.gov. Alabama, Middle District 334-223-7486. alnb.uscourts.gov. ecf.alnb.uscourts.gov. Alabama, Southern District 334-441-5638. 334-441-5637. alsb.uscourts.gov. ecf.alsb.uscourts.gov. Alaska Bankruptcy Court 907-271-2695. 907-271-2658. 888-878-3110-akb.uscourts.gov. efc.akb.uscourts.gov. pacer.akb.ugtscourts.gov. Arizona Bankruptcy Court Phoenix Division 602-640-5832. 602-640-5820. 800-556-9230. azb.uscourts.gov. pacer.azb.uscourts.gov. pacer.psc.courts.gov/bk/azbh. Tucson Division 520-620-7470. 520-620-7475. Yuma Division 520-783-9535. Arkansas Bankruptcy Court Eastern District 501-918-5565. 800-891-6741. 501-918-5555. rb.uscourts.gov. ecf.rb.uscourts.gov. pacer.rb.uscourts.gov. Western District 501-918-5565. 800-891-6741. 501-918-5555. arwb.uscourts.gov. pacer.arwb.uscourts.gov. California Bankruptcy Court Northern District 888-773-8548. 415-268-4832. kenb.uscourts.gov. pacer.kenb.uscourts.gov. San Jose Division 408-535-5118. 800-457-0604. San Francisco Division 415-268-2300. 800-570-9819. 415-705-3160. Oakland Division 510-879-3600. Santa Rosa Division 707-525-8539. 800-570-9819. Eastern District Sacramento Division 916-498-5525. 916-551-2989. caeb.uscourts.gov. pacer.caeb.uscourts.gov. Fresno Division 559-498-7217. 800-736-0158. Modesto Division 209-521-5160. 800-736-0158. Central District Los Angeles Division 213-620-0031. 213-894-4111. 800-257-3887. cacb.uscourts.gov. pacerlaw.cacb.uscourts.gov. San Fernando Division. 818-587-2932. 818-587-2936. Santa Ana Division. 714-338-5406. 714-836-2278. Santa Barbara Division. 805-884-4806. Riverside Division. 909-276-2914. 909-774-1150. Southern District. San Diego Division. 619-557-6875. 619-557-6521. 800-870-9972. Kabi.uscourts.gov. ecf.kabi.uscourts.gov. pacer.kabi.uscourts.gov. Colorado Bankruptcy Court. 303-844-0263. 303-844-0267. cob.uscourts.gov. pacer.cob.uscourts.gov. Connecticut Bankruptcy Court. 860-240-3570. 800-800-5113. 860-240-3345. ctb.uscourts.gov. pacer.ctb.uscourts.gov. Delaware Bankruptcy Court. 888-667-5530. 302-573-6243. 888-667-5530. 302-573-6233. deb.uscourts.gov. ecf.deb.uscourts.gov. pacer.deb.uscourts.gov. District of Columbia Bankruptcy Court. 202-273-0630. 202-273-0048. 888-289-2414. 202-273-0630. dcb.uscourts.gov. pacer.dcb.uscourts.gov. Florida Bankruptcy Court. Northern District. 904-435-8475. 850-444-0189. 850-942-8358. 888-765-1751. flnb.uscourts.gov. pacer.flnb.uscourts.gov. Pensacola Division. 850-444-0189. Tallahassee Division. 904-942-8815. Middle District. Jacksonville Division. 904-232-1311. 904-232-1313. flmb.uscourts.gov. pacer.flmb.uscourts.gov. Orlando Division. 407-648-6212. 407-648-6800. Tampa Division. 813-31J1-5206. 813-243-5210. Florida, Southern District. 305-536-7492. 800-473-0226. 305-536-5979. 888-443-0081. flsb.uscourts.gov. pacer.flsb.uscourts.gov. Georgia Bankruptcy Court. Northern District. 404-730-3264. 404-730-2866. 404-730-2867. 404-730-2866. 436-8395. 800-510-8284. ganb.uscourts.gov. ecf.ganb.uscourts.gov. pacer.ganb.uscourts.gov. Georgia, Middle District. 912-752-3551. 912-752-8183. 800-546-7343. 800-211-3015. gambi.uscourts.gov. pacer.gambi.uscourts.gov. Georgia, Southern District. Augusta Division. 800-295-8679. 912-650-4190. gasb.uscourts.gov. pacer.gasb.uscourts.gov. Savannah Division. 912-650-4190. Hawaii Bankruptcy Court. 808-522-8118. 808-522-8122. 888-853-3766. hib.uscourts.gov. pacer.hib.uscourts.gov. Idaho Bankruptcy Court. 208-334-9895. 208-334-9386, 9342. id.uscourts.gov. pacer.id.uscourts.gov. id.uscourts.gov/docs. Illinois Bankruptcy Court. Northern District. Chicago Division. 312-408-5101. 312-408-5089. 888-541-1078. 888-232-6814. ilnb.uscourts.gov. ilnb.uscourts.gov/case notice. pacer.ilnb.uscourts.gov. Rockford Division. 815-987-4489. 815-987-4487. Illinois, Central District. 217-492-4260. 217-492-4550. 800-827-9005. 800-454-9893. ilcb.uscourts.gov. pacer.ilcb.uscourts.gov. Illinois, Southern District. 618-482-9114. 618-482-9365. 800-726-5622. ilsb.uscourts.gov. ecf.ilsb.uscourts.gov. pacer.ilsb.uscourts.gov. Indiana Bankruptcy Court. Northern District. 574-968-2270. 800-726-5622. 574-236-8814. 888-917-2237. 800-755-8393. 574-236-8814. nb.uscourts.gov. pacer.nb.uscourts.gov. Indiana, Southern District. 317-226-5146. 800-335-8003. 317-229-3845. insb.uscourts.gov. pacer.insb.uscourts.gov. Iowa Bankruptcy Court. Northern District. 319-286-2287. 800-249-9859. 319-362-9906. enb.uscourts.gov. pacer.enb.uscourts.gov. Iowa, Southern District. 515-284-6427. 800-597-5917. 515-284-6230-6466, 888-219-5534. iasb.uscourts.gov. pacer.iasb.uscourts.gov. Kansas Bankruptcy Court. 800-613-7052. 800-827-9028. 316-269-6668, 6258. ksb.uscourts.gov. pacer.ksb.uscourts.gov. Kentucky Bankruptcy Court. Eastern. 859-233-2777, 2657. 800-998-2650. kib.uscourts.gov. ecf.kib.uscourts.gov. pacer.kib.uscourts.gov. Western. 800-263-9389. 800-263-9385. 502-625-7391. kywb.uscourts.gov. ecf.kywb.uscourts.gov. pacer.kywb.uscourts.gov. Louisiana Bankruptcy Court. Eastern. 504-589-6961. 504-589-7879. 888-257-1175. labby.uscourts.gov. ecf.labby.uscourts.gov. pacer.labby.uscourts.gov. Louisiana, Middle. 225-382-2176. 504-382-2175. lam.uscourts.gov. pacer.lam.uscourts.gov. Louisiana, Western. 800-523-1976. 888-523-1976. 800-326-4026. 318-676-4234, 4235. lobby.uscourts.gov. pacer.lobby.uscourts.gov. Maine Bankruptcy Court. 207-780-3268. 888-201-3572. 207-780-3755. 800-733-8797. 800-650-7253. meb.uscourts.gov. ecf.meb.uscourts.gov. pacer.meb.uscourts.gov. Maryland Bankruptcy Court. 410-962-0776. 410-962-0733. 800-927-0474. 800-829-0145. mdb.uscourts.gov. pacer.mdb.uscourts.gov. Massachusetts Bankruptcy Court. 617-565-6021. 617-565-6025. 888-201-3571, 3572. mab.uscourts.gov. pacer.mab.uscourts.gov. Michigan Bankruptcy Court. Eastern District. Includes Detroit. 313-961-4934. 313-961-4940. 800-498-5061. 877-422-3066. meb.uscourts.gov. pacer.meb.uscourts.gov. Michigan, Western District. 616-456-2415. 616-456-2075. 800-526-0342. miwb.uscourts.gov. pacer.miwb.uscourts.gov. Minnesota Bankruptcy Court. 651-848-1096. 800-959-9002. 612-664-5302. mnb.uscourts.gov. pacer.mnb.uscourts.gov. Mississippi Bankruptcy Court. Northern District. 662-369-9805. 662-369-8147. 800-392-8653. 888-372-5709. msnb.uscourts.gov. pacer.msnb.uscourts.gov. Mississippi, Southern District. Biloxi Division. 228-432-5542. 800-293-2723. 800-223-1078. 601-965-6103. 601-435-2905. mssb.uscourts.gov. pacer.mssb.uscourts.gov. Jackson Division. 601-965-5301. 800-601-8859. 601-965-6106. Missouri Bankruptcy Court. Eastern District. Includes St. Louis. 314-425-6935. 314-425-4054. 888-577-1668. 314-144-4998. 888-223-6431. mobi.uscourts.gov. pacer.mobi.uscourts.gov. Missouri, Western District. 816-512-5115. 816-842-7985. 888-205-2527. 816-426-5822. mobi.uscourts.gov. ECF. mobi.uscourts.gov. pacer.mobi.uscourts.gov. Montana Bankruptcy Court. 406-782-1051. 406-782-1060. 800-716-4305. 888-879-0071. 406-782-1060. mtb.uscourts.gov. pacer.mtb.uscourts.gov. Nebraska Bankruptcy Court. 402-221-4882. 800-829-0112. 402-221-3757. 800-676-6856. 800-788-0656. neb.uscourts.gov. pacer.neb.uscourts.gov. Nevada Bankruptcy Court. Las Vegas Division. 702-388-6633. 800-314-3436. 702-388-6708. nvb.uscourts.gov. ecf.nvb.uscourts.gov. pacer.nvb.uscourts.gov. Reno Division. 775-784-5559. 800-314-3436. New Hampshire Bankruptcy Court. 603-666-7923. 800-851-8954. 603-666-7424. nhb.uscourts.gov. ecf.nhb.uscourts.gov. pacer.nhb.uscourts.gov. New Jersey Bankruptcy Court. 973-645-3555. 877-239-8255. 8547 2547, 973 645 6044, njb.uscourts.gov, ecf.njb.uscourts.gov, pacer.njb.uscourts.gov, New Mexico Bankruptcy Court, 505-348-2496, 888-435-7822, 505-248-6536, 888-821-8813, nmcourt.fed.us/bkdocs, nmb.uscourts.gov, New York Bankruptcy Court, Northern District, 518-257-1669, 800-206-1952, 800-390-8432, newyorknb.uscourts.gov, pacer.newyorknb.uscourts.gov, New York, Southern District, New York City Division, 212-668-2896, 212-668-2772, nisb.uscourts.gov, ecf.nisb.uscourts.gov, pacer.nisb.uscourts.gov, White Plains Division, 914-390-4060, 212-668-2772, New York, Eastern District, 718-488-7012 7013, 800-252-2537, 718-852-5726, 800-263-7790, nib.uscourts.gov, ecf.nib.uscourts.gov, pacer.nib.uscourts.gov, New York, Western District, 716-551-3155 3152, 800-776-9578, 800-450-8052, 716-551-5311, nywb.uscourts.gov, pacer.nywb.uscourts.gov, North Carolina Bankruptcy Court, Eastern District, 252-856-4752, 252-234-7655, 888-847-9138, nceb.uscourts.gov, pacer.nceb.uscourts.gov, North Carolina, Middle District, 336-333-5389, 910-333-5532, 800-417-3571, 888-319-0455, ncmb.uscourts.gov, pacer.ncmb.uscourts.gov, North Carolina, Western District, 704-350-7509, 704-350-7505, 800-884-9868, ncwb.uscourts.gov, ecf.ncwb.uscourts.gov, pacer.ncwb.uscourts.gov, North Dakota Bankruptcy Court, 701-297-7165 7164, 701-239-5641, 800-810-4092, ndb.uscourts.gov, pacer.ndb.uscourts.gov, Ohio Bankruptcy Court, Northern District, 330-489-4779, 800-898-6899, 330-489-4731, 216-489-4771, ohnb.uscourts.gov, ecf.ohnb.uscourts.gov, pacer.ohnb.uscourts.gov. Ohio, Southern District. Columbus Division. 614-469-6638. 800-726-1006. 800-793-7003. ohsb.uscourts.gov. pacer.ohsb.uscourts.gov. Dayton Division. 937-225-2516, 7561, 2544. 800-726-1004. Oklahoma Bankruptcy Court. Northern District. 918-699-4033, 4001. 888-501-6977. 800-790-0860. oknb.uscourts.gov. pacer.oknb.uscourts.gov. Oklahoma, Eastern District. 918-756-4812. 918-756-8617. 866-863-3767. 877-377-1221. okb.uscourts.gov. pacer.okb.uscourts.gov. Oklahoma, Western District. 405-231-4955. 405-231-4768. 800-872-1348. okwb.uscourts.gov. pacer.okwb.uscourts.gov. Oregon Bankruptcy Court. 800-610-9315. 800-726-2227. 503-326-2249, 5650. orb.uscourts.gov. pacer.orb.uscourts.gov. Pennsylvania Bankruptcy Court. Eastern District. 215-597-3501. 215-597-2244. 888-381-2921. payb.uscourts.gov. pacer.payb.uscourts.gov. Pennsylvania, Middle District. Harrisburg Division. 570-901-2835. 877-440-2690, 2699. 800-882-6899. pamd.uscourts.gov. pacer.pamd.uscourts.gov. Wilkes-Barre Division. 570-821-4033. 877-440-2690. Pennsylvania, Western District. 412-355-2588. 412-355-3210. 800-795-2829. pawb.uscourts.gov. pacer.pawb.uscourts.gov. Rhode Island Bankruptcy Court. 401-528-4062. 401-528-4476. 800-610-9310. 800-843-2841. rib.uscourts.gov. pacer.rib.uscourts.gov. South Carolina Bankruptcy Court. 800-410-2988. 800-669-8767. 803-765-5211, 5965. scb.uscourts.gov. pacer.scb.uscourts.gov. South Dakota Bankruptcy Court. 800-261-3167. 800-768-6218. 605-330-4559, 4558. sdb.uscourts.gov. ecf.sdb.uscourts.gov. pacer.sdb.uscourts.gov. Tennessee Bankruptcy Court. Eastern District. 888-833-9512. 800-767-1512. 423-752-5272, 5136. tneb.uscourts.gov. pacer.tneb.uscourts.gov. Tennessee, Middle District. 615-254-5290. 615-736-5577. tnmb.uscourts.gov. pacer.tnmb.uscourts.gov. Tennessee, Western District. 901-328-3617. 888-381-4961. 800-406-0190. tnwb.uscourts.gov. pacer.tnwb.uscourts.gov. Texas Bankruptcy Court. Northern District. Amarillo Division. 806-324-2302. 800-886-9008. 888-225-1738. 214-753-2134, 2128. txnb.uscourts.gov. pacer.txnb.uscourts.gov. Dallas Division. 214-767-3616. 214-767-8092. Fort Worth Division. 817-978-3802. 800-886-9008. Lubbock Division. 806-472-7336. 214-767-8092. Texas, Southern District. 800-998-9037. 800-745-4459. 713-250-5000, 5049. txsb.uscourts.gov. pacer.txsb.uscourts.gov. Texas, Eastern District. 903-590-1220. 903-590-1217. 800-466-1681, 1694. txcb.uscourts.gov. pacer.txcb.uscourts.gov. Texas, Western District. Includes San Antonio and El Paso. 210-472-6262, 4023. 210-229-4023. 888-372-5708. 888-436-7477. txwb.uscourts.gov. pacer.txwb.uscourts.gov. Utah Bankruptcy Court. 800-718-1188. 800-733-6740. 801-524-3107. utb.uscourts.gov. ecf.utb.uscourts.gov. pacer.utb.uscourts.gov. Vermont Bankruptcy Court. 800-260-9968. 800-260-9956. 802-747-7627. 802-776-2007. vtb.uscourts.gov. ecf.vtb.uscourts.gov. pacer.vtb.uscourts.gov. Virginia Bankruptcy Court. Eastern District. Richmond Division. 804-916-2484. 703-258-1234. 800-890-2829, 2858. 800-326-5879. 771-2736. vb.uscourts.gov. ecf.vb.uscourts.gov. pacer.vb.uscourts.gov. Alexandria Division. 703-258-1234. 800-890-2858. Newport News. 757-595-1365. 800-890-2785. Norfolk. 757-222-7441. 800-890-2954. Virginia, Western District. Harrisonburg Division. 540-434-8373. 800-248-0329. vawb.uscourts.gov. pacer.vawb.uscourts.gov. Lynchburg Division. 804-528-9003. Roanoke Division. 540-857-2319. Washington Bankruptcy Court. Eastern District. Includes Spokane. 509-353-2404. wab.uscourts.gov. pacer.wab.uscourts.gov. Washington, Western District. Includes Seattle. 206-553-0600. 800-409-4662. 206-553-8543. 206-442-6504. 800-704-4492. 888-436-7477. vavb.uscourts.gov. ecf.vavb.uscourts.gov. pacer.vavb.uscourts.gov. West Virginia Bankruptcy Court. Northern District. 304-233-2871. 304-233-7318. 800-809-3016, 3028. wvnb.uscourts.gov. pacer.wvnb.uscourts.gov. West Virginia, Southern District. 304-347-5678, 5337. 304-347-5680. wvsb.uscourts.gov. pacer.wvsb.uscourts.gov. Wisconsin Bankruptcy Court. Eastern District. 414-297-1400. 414-297-3582. 800-676-6856. 877-467-5537. web.uscourts.gov. pacer.web.uscourts.gov. Wisconsin, Western District. 608-264-5630. 800-743-8247. 800-676-6856. 800-373-8708. wiw.uscourts.gov/bankruptcy. pacer.wiwb.uscourts.gov. Wyoming Bankruptcy Court. 307-772-2036, 2191. 888-804-5537. wyb.uscourts.gov. ecf.wyb.uscourts.gov. pacer.wyb.uscourts.gov. Bankruptcy Records Databases. In your dealings with people and businesses, you might want to investigate someone for past bankruptcies. Use these databases for a fee to look up people and businesses who have declared bankruptcy. Accusource.com, Bankruptcy, Other Databases. Banco.com, 800-533-8897. Bankrupt.com, Internet Bankruptcy Library, World. Bankruptcydata.com, fee-based website that records bankruptcy filings from U.S. Federal bankruptcy courts. bkauthority.com, 800-969-2377. Experian.com, 888-397-3742, credit, other databases like Bankruptcy, UCC. Publicrecs.com, Bankruptcy, UCC, etc., Georgia, Michigan. ResearchArchives.com, business and other records, bankruptcy. SDDT.com, 800-697-6397, California Bankruptcy, UCC, real estate. SuperiorInfo.com, 800-848-0489, bankruptcy, corporate, real estate, UCC. WSB.com, 800-955-5219. State bankruptcy offices. uscourts.gov. Preface your letters with U.S. Bankruptcy Court. Look them up under Federal Government in your local phone book. Alabama. 500 South 22nd St. Birmingham, Alabama 35233. POG 1248. Montgomery, Alabama 36192. POG 2865. Mobile, Alabama 36652. Alaska. 222 West 7th Avenue. Anchorage, Alaska 99513. Arizona. 230 N1 SST Ave. Phoenix, Arizona 85025. 110 S Church. Tucson, Arizona 85702. Arkansas. POG 2381. Little Rock, Arkansas 72203. California. 312 North Spring St. La, California 90012. 940 Front St. SD, California 92189. 1130 OST. Fresno, California 93721. 450 Golden Gate Avenue. SF, California 94102. POG 5276. Modesto, California 95352. Colorado. 1845 Sherman St. Denver, Colorado 06103. Connecticut. 450 Main St. Hartford, Connecticut 06103. Delaware. 844 North King St. Wilmington, Delaware 19801. D.C., City of Washington. 300 Constitution Avenue. N.W. Washington, D.C. 20001. Florida Bankruptcy Offices. 51 Southwest 1st Avenue. Miami, Florida 33101. 299 East Broward Boulevard. Ft. Lauderdale, Florida 33301. 227 North Braniff St. Tallahassee, Florida 32301. 4921 Memorial Highway. Tampa, Florida 33634. POB 599. Jacksonville, Florida 32201. Georgia. POB 1957. Macon, Georgia 31202. 79 Spring St. Atlanta, Georgia 30303. POB 8347. Savannah, Georgia 31412. Hawaii. POB 50121. Honolulu, Hawaii 96850. Idaho. POB 2600. Boise, Idaho 83701. Illinois. 219 South Dearborn St. Chicago, Illinois 60604. POB 309. E. St. Louis, Illinois 62201. POB 2438. Springfield, Illinois 62705. Indiana. 46 East Ohio St. Indianapolis, Indiana 46204. 610, Connecticut St. Gary, Indiana 46402. 204, South Main St. South Bend, Indiana 46601. Iowa 1, Walnut St. Des Moines, Iowa 50309. Kansas 401, North Market St. Wichita, Kansas 67202. Kentucky 601 W Broadway. Louisville, Kentucky 40202. Pog 1050. Lexington, Kentucky 40588. Louisiana 500, Camp St. No, Louisiana 70130. Maine 412, North 4th St. Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70802. Maryland 101, West Lombard St. Baltimore, Maryland 21201. Massachusetts 10 Causeway. Boston, Massachusetts 02222. Michigan 231, West Lafayette St. Detroit, Me. Pog 3310. Grand Rapids, Michigan 49501. Minnesota 316, North Robert St. St. Paul, Minnesota 55101. 330, 2nd Avenue. Minneapolis, Minnesota 55401. Mississippi 245, East Capitol St. Jackson, Mississippi 39201. Pog 369. Biloxi, Mississippi 39533. Pog 867. Aberdeen, Mississippi 39730. Missouri 1114, Market St. St. Louis, Missouri 63101. 811, Grand Avenue. KC, Missouri 64106. Montana 273, Federal Building. Butte, Montana 59701. Nebraska Pog 428. Omaha, Nebraska 68101. Nevada 300, Las Vegas Boulevard. LV, Nevada 89101. New Hampshire 275, Chestnut St. Manchester, New Hampshire 03101. New Jersey 15, North 7th St. Camden, New Jersey 08102. Pog 515. Trenton, New Jersey 08603. New Mexico Pog 546. Albuquerque, New Mexico 87103. New York 1, Bowling Green. NYC 10004. 75, Clinton St. Brooklyn, New York 11201. Pog 398. Alba, NYC 12201. 68, Court St. Buffalo, New York 14202. 100, State St. Rochester, New York 14614. North Carolina Pog 26100. Greensboro, North Carolina 27420. Pog 2807. Wilson, North Carolina 27894. 100, Otis St. Asheville, North Carolina 28801. North Dakota Pog 1110. Fargo, North Dakota 58107. Ohio 1716, Spielbush Avenue. Toledo, Ohio 43624. 201, Superior Avenue. Cleveland, Ohio 44114. 2, South Main St. Akron, Ohio 44308. 9, West Front St. Youngstown, Ohio 44501. 201, Cleveland Avenue. Canton, Ohio 44702. 85, Marconi Boulevard. Columbus, Ohio 43215. Oklahoma 201, Dean McGee Avenue. OKC Oklahoma 73102. 111 West 5th St. Tulsa Oklahoma 74103. POB 1347. Okmulgee Oklahoma 74447. Oregon. POB 1335. Eugene, Oregon 97440. 1001 Southwest 5th Avenue. Portland, Oregon 97204. Pennsylvania. 1602 Liberty Avenue. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania 15222. 197 South Main St. Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania 18701. 601 Market St. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania 19106. Rhode Island. 380 Westminster Mall. Providence, Rhode Island 02903. South Carolina. POB 1448. Columbia, South Carolina 29202. South Dakota. POB 5060. Sioux Falls, South Dakota 57117. Tennessee. 701 Broadway. Nashville, Tennessee 37203. 969 Madison Avenue. Memphis, Tennessee 38104. Texas. 1100 Commerce St. Dallas, TX 7542. 501 West 10th St. FT. Worth, Texas 76102. 515 Rusk Avenue. Houston, Texas 77002. 1205 Texas Avenue. Lubbock, Texas 79401. POB 1439. San Antonio, Texas 78295. Utah. 350 South Main St. SLC, Utah 84101. Vermont. POB 6648. Rutland, Vermont 05702. Virginia. 206 North Washington St. Alexandria, Virginia 22314. POB 676. Richmond, Virginia 23206. 600 Granby St. Norfolk, Virginia 23510. POB 2390. Roanoke, Virginia 24010. Washington. 1200 6th Avenue. Seattle, Washington 98101. POB 2164. Spokane, Washington 99201. West Virginia. POB 3924. Charleston, Virginia 25301. POB 70. Wheeling, WV 2600. Wisconsin. 517 West Wisconsin Avenue. Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53202. POB 548. Madison, Wisconsin 53701. Wyoming. POB 1107. Cheyenne, Wyoming 82003.